She pulls away the moment you lean in, and you're left questioning your worth like a man stripped bare. What feels like rejection is often the exact moment she wants you most. A hidden test buried deep in female psychology. This video exposes why women push men away at the height of desire, and how your reaction decides whether you rise or collapse. In the silence of her withdrawal lies a battlefield of relationship power dynamics, where emotional discipline and masculine frame separate the strong from the broken. The Stoic truth is brutal. Desire often disguises itself as distance, and only through emotional control and Stoic detachment. Can you see the hidden invitation? She doesn't need your chase. She needs to feel your value as a man, untouched by her storm. When she retreats, will you crumble into reaction or stand still in unshakable power? Point number 1, emotional exposure. Have you ever noticed how even in the warmth of a woman's embrace, you can feel distance, a flicker of doubt, a subtle test that makes you question if you are truly enough? Every hug is not just affection, but sometimes a silent probe into your frame, your resolve, your ability to hold masculine control without begging for reassurance. She squeezes you closer, but in her silence you sense her mind drifting. And the man who reacts, who clings, who seeks certainty in that moment, loses himself. That is the hidden cruelty of female psychology. Her body offers closeness, while her spirit demands proof of your emotional discipline. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This is the pivot. Her hug may be warm, her withdrawal may sting, but both are outside events. What belongs to you is not her affection or her distance, but your response to them. The strength of a man is measured not in how much he can feel, but in how much he can remain still when everything around him is designed to provoke movement. The Stoics lived in a world of exile, betrayal, and sudden loss. Musonius Rufus endured banishment, stripped of home and title, yet stood unbroken because he refused to let external misfortune define his value. Now compare that to the modern man who feels destroyed when the woman he loves hugs him with one arm, while her phone is in the other. He senses rejection, he panics, and he tries to prove his worth through over-explanation or pleading. That is not strength, that is slavery. Relationship power dynamics tilt not because of her intent, but because of his reaction. She tests, she withdraws, she embraces ambiguously. But the man who embodies Stoic detachment holds his frame in silence. He does not seek proof of loyalty in a fleeting moment. He rests in the unshakable value of a man who knows his worth. Female rejection is rarely verbal. More often it is subtle, veiled, encoded in touch, silence, or delay. The weak man interprets every gesture as judgment. The disciplined man sees it as training. This is emotional warfare disguised as affection. A hug is never just a hug. It is often the test of whether your self-command can survive even the intimacy you desire most. Emotional discipline is not numbness. It is the mastery of choosing when and how to act regardless of what she does. So practice the pause. When her embrace feels distant, do not overthink, let it be. Breathe through the tension and remind yourself that her storm is not your cage. Imagine yourself unmoved, like a mountain that does not bend to the pressure of wind. Her hug is just a moment. Your silence is eternity. And ask yourself, if her closeness can shake you, have you ever truly been close to yourself? And as this truth unfolds, the next question emerges. How do you recognize the test before it even begins, and see through her silence without losing your own? Point number 2, recognition of the test. Have you ever felt that strange shift? When the woman who once pulled you close suddenly goes quiet, her words colder, her body language sharper, as if every gesture is bait for your reaction? That's not an accident. It is a test buried deep within female psychology, a silent exam she sets without a word. Most men fail it because they confuse her withdrawal with rejection, and in desperation they hand away their value as a man. What she's really watching is whether you'll break your own masculine control the moment you feel uncertainty. The test isn't about her, it's about you. Seneca once said, "If you are agitated by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them." Her silence, her sudden distance, her cryptic mood, none of these have power on their own. It is your interpretation that wounds you, your judgment that makes you chase, your need for certainty that betrays you. The philosophy is simple, but brutal. She cannot control you unless you volunteer your reaction. Think of Epictetus, a slave beaten and tested by his master, who remained unshaken, refusing to let pain dictate his inner state. In our time, the test is softer, but no less sharp. A woman delays her reply, gives you half her attention, withdraws affection just when you expect it. She is not always cruel. Often she is unconscious, but the effect is the same. She is probing the edges of your composure. And like the Stoic, you are given one choice: to remain or to collapse. The modern man often collapses. He sends more texts, asks if something is wrong, gives gifts or seeks reassurance. In that instant, he reveals that his emotional control is fragile. His value as a man dependent on her mood. That is the trap she lays without ever speaking. Relationship power dynamics are forged in these invisible exchanges. Her test is not about truth, but about leverage. Will you prove yourself through action, or will you expose your weakness by over-explaining? The man of emotional discipline does neither. He recognizes the test, sees it for what it is, and does nothing. Stoic detachment is not coldness but clarity. It is seeing the storm and refusing to step into it. The hug that feels distant, the silence that feels hostile, the mood that feels rejecting. All of these are mirrors, held up to your own self-command. If you need her warmth to remain steady, you were never steady to begin with. So the practice is this: when the shift comes, pause. Recognize it for what it is, a test, not a truth. Do not chase, do not correct. Stand still and let her uncertainty crash against your silence. Train your mind to see the difference between her behavior and your worth. Then ask yourself this: if she can bend your frame with nothing but a mood, did you ever have one? And from here, the question deepens: what is the trap that swallows most men the moment they try to escape this silence? Point number 3, the masculine trap. Have you noticed how quickly your mind scrambles for answers the moment she withdraws? 1 minute she is warm, the next she is distant, and suddenly you are pulled into the masculine trap, the desperate urge to fix, to explain, to restore harmony at any cost. This is the quiet enslavement men never speak about. You feel her silence like a wound, and instead of holding your frame, you lunge into proving your worth. That is how most men lose without ever realizing it. Not through her rejection, but through their own need to be reassured. Epictetus warned, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. To the modern man, nothing feels more unbearable than being seen as careless in love. But here lies the paradox. The more you try to prove you care, the weaker you appear. A woman does not test your ability to please her. She tests your ability to remain unmoved. When she withholds the very affection you crave. The masculine trap is the illusion that if you just explain yourself better, show more effort, or convince her of your loyalty, you will restore balance. But that effort only confirms her suspicion that your value as a man hangs entirely on her approval. Marcus Aurelius endured betrayal from his own wife and closest allies. Yet his meditations remain calm, grounded, free of bitterness. He understood the Stoic principle. You cannot control the hearts of others, only your response. Compare that to the man who, when faced with female rejection cloaked in silence, reacts with paragraphs of messages or desperate plans to win her back. He believes he is being strong, when in truth he is feeding the trap she set unconsciously. Female psychology is ruthless in this sense. It does not admire desperation. It despises it. Relationship power dynamics tilt sharply in these moments. If you chase, she pulls further. If you explain, she doubts more. If you demand clarity, she grows colder. Every move you make from the place of panic proves you are not steady. Emotional discipline is not about suppressing desire. It is about recognizing when desire is being weaponized against you. The trap exists to strip you of silence, to drag you into frantic noise where you surrender masculine control. So the challenge is this: practice voluntary stillness. When every nerve screams to act, when she withholds, let her. When she tests, let her. Your value as a man is not proven in the scramble but in the pause. Ask yourself, if you cannot endure her silence without crumbling, how will you ever endure life itself? And yet beyond the trap, there is a sharper truth waiting. Detachment does not retreat. It is the clarity that turns her storm into your mirror. Point number 4, detachment as clarity. Why does her silence cut so deeply while your own silence feels impossible to hold? This is the moment where most men break. When they confuse detachment with indifference, when they believe pulling back means they no longer care. But true Stoic detachment is not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of clarity. It is the ability to see through her tactics, Her moods, her subtle withdrawals, without letting them dictate your worth. When she shifts, you don't react. When she withdraws, you don't chase. When she tests, you don't explain. You see the game for what it is, smoke, not substance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Her sudden distance is not your enemy. Your interpretation of that distance is." Detachment cuts away the fog, reminding you that what you feel is not betrayal, but your own mind telling you a story. When you detach, the story dissolves, and you are left with silence, not emptiness, but clarity. Think of Cato standing before Caesar, refusing to bend, not because he hated Caesar, but because his principles were his anchor. He understood that true control is not resistance against another, but allegiance to one's own discipline. Now picture the modern man. His girlfriend grows cold for a night, and he floods her with texts, explanations, and questions. He thinks he is saving the relationship, when in truth he is drowning it. She did not need his panic. She needed proof of his frame. That proof only exists in the pause. Female psychology thrives on contrast. She pushes to see if you pull. She withdraws to see if you chase. She hides to see if you collapse. But when you embody Stoic silence, you reverse the game. Your stillness becomes the mirror in which she sees her own uncertainty. Relationship power dynamics shift, because she cannot move a man who does not fight himself. Detachment is clarity, because it reveals where the true battle lies, not between her and you, but within you and your own need to control. So train this. When her behavior changes, let it pass like weather. Do not label it. Do not demand explanation. Let your masculine control be felt in your refusal to collapse. Visualize yourself as the stone in the river. Water bends around you, yet you remain. Ask yourself, if her silence blinds you, were you ever seeing clearly at all? And as clarity settles, a darker truth emerges. Every reaction you give away bleeds your value, while every pause protects it. Now we arrive at the loss of value through reaction. Point number 5. Loss of value through reaction. Why is it that the very moment you try to prove yourself, you feel her slipping further away? This is the cruel paradox men never speak of. Your attempt to hold her closer is often the exact moment you lose your value as a man. In the silence of her test, when she withdraws or grows cold, every frantic word, every desperate action, every emotional plea strips you of the frame she once admired. You don't lose her in the rejection itself. You lose her in your reaction. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." Freedom in love and life is not the absence of pain, but the refusal to be enslaved by it. The man who cannot endure a woman's silence without erupting into neediness is not free. He is bound by her moods. The reaction enslaves him, not her distance. What she senses in that moment is that his value is conditional, tethered to her approval. And once she sees that, respect begins to die. Look at the Stoics under trial. Thrasea faced Nero's wrath, surrounded by power and cruelty designed to force a reaction, yet he chose silence, preserving his dignity by refusing to play the tyrant's game. Contrast that with the modern man in the grip of female psychology. She pulls away for a night. He responds with paragraphs, emotional confessions, frantic apologies for crimes not even committed. He thinks he is repairing the bond, but he is dismantling it. Relationship power dynamics tilt violently in her favor, because his reaction proves she controls him without saying a word. Masculine control is not about dominance. It is about refusal. Refusal to give your power away through impulse. Emotional discipline is the rare art of absorbing her storm without answering it in kind. The loss of value through reaction is not theoretical, it is visible. The texts unanswered, the words too many, the tone too soft. Each one chips at the image of the man who once stood steady. She doesn't need his panic. She needs his pause. She doesn't respect his scramble. She respects his silence. So here's the training. When the test comes, resist the reflex. See your urge to react as the very battlefield of masculinity. Let it burn, hold it, allow her distance without rushing to close it. Practice Stoic detachment by remembering this. What shakes you reveals you. If her shift dismantles you, then what was ever truly yours? Ask yourself this: if every reaction drains your worth, will you choose to keep bleeding? Or will you choose to finally stand still? And it is in that stillness that we uncover the ancient weapon men have forgotten. Discipline carried like armor into the modern war of intimacy. Point number 6. Ancient discipline in modern war. Why do modern men collapse under the same pressures that ancient men endured with silence? The world has changed, yet the battlefield is the same. A woman's shifting moods, her sudden withdrawal, the subtle ways she tests your worth without ever speaking. This is modern war, one fought not with swords, but with silence, not with armies, but with glances and withheld affection. And the weapon you need is not charm, not effort, not frantic love. It is the same discipline that carried men through exile, betrayal, and the loss of everything they owned. Ancient discipline is the armor that keeps you steady when her tactics aim straight for your heart. Marcus Aurelius lived surrounded by liars, traitors, and shifting alliances. Yet he wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That command echoes across centuries into your relationship. Do not debate her silence. Do not plead for her loyalty. Do not analyze every withdrawal as if your life depends on it. Simply be steady, be unbroken. Be the man whose value is not traded for affection. The strength she cannot manipulate is the same strength that kept emperors sane while their empires crumbled. Look at the difference. An ancient Stoic stood in exile, stripped of wealth and home, yet unshaken. The modern man collapses because his girlfriend left his message on read. Female psychology has always carried the same undercurrent, probing for your stability, searching for cracks in your frame. But where ancient men saw trials as training, modern men see rejection and scramble to prove themselves. That is why discipline is not optional, it is survival. Relationship power dynamics will always punish the man who reacts and reward the one who remains composed. Stoic detachment in the face of testing is not cruelty. It is the clarity that lets her feel your strength without you needing to display it. So carry this ancient discipline into modern war. Practice emotional discipline daily. Pause before you respond. Hold silence when tested. Breathe through the storm rather than chasing it. Remember that your value as a man is not measured by how much you can give her, but by how little her shifts can take from you. Ancient discipline was not about suppressing love, but about refusing to hand your soul away to every passing mood. So ask yourself, if the men of old endured betrayal, loss, and exile with stillness, will you really let a moment of her silence undo you? And in that question lies the transition. For when discipline steadies you, the next challenge arises, mastering the invisible frame that silently commands her respect. You've now seen what hides beneath every embrace, every silence, every withdrawal, the invisible war that plays out between your frame and her tests. The hug that feels warm yet distant, the unspoken exam inside her moods, the trap of reaction that robs you of value, the clarity born through detachment, the erosion that happens when you scramble to prove yourself, and the discipline that has carried men from ancient exile to the modern battlefield of relationships. These are not separate lessons, they are a single path, a path that strips away illusion and forces you to confront the one truth. She cannot defeat you unless you fight yourself. The Stoics understood it, and now so must you. Emotional discipline is your armor. Stoic silence is your shield. Detachment is not retreat, it is power. And clarity is the weapon that keeps you untouchable in a world where every glance, every pause, every withheld word is a test. So the question you must leave with tonight is this: will you remain a man who crumbles under her storm, or will you choose to master stillness and let her storm prove your strength? If you felt these truths cut into your own life, then stay here, because this is Stoic Truth, the place where men shed weakness, reclaim their frame, and learn the discipline that commands respect without noise. Subscribe, join this brotherhood, and let's continue sharpening the silent edge that no test can break.